Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Yohanna Yonathan representing the Computer Science Department at Bina Nusantara University, Indonesia. In this video is presentation for the second year International Colloquium on Signal Processing and its Application, CSPA 2026. Today, I'm thrilled to share our latest research title, Development of Lightweight API Governance Model to Enhance Digital Agility in Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises. This research was conducted alongside my esteemed colleague, Gideon Giyanto and Jeklin Harefa. In this study, we are going to talk about the resource constraint tech startups can actually achieve enterprise-grade API reliability without going bankrupt in the process. So let's start with the background and context for this study. Let's start with the big picture, the API economy. Today, APIs are no longer just back-end integration tools. They are strategic boundary resources. They dictate how digital native MSMEs like local fintech or SaaS developers capture value in a global ecosystem. But here is the reality on the ground. We are facing a massive digital divide. In addition, MSMEs want to participate in this high-speed economy, but they are severely bottlenecked by the capital constraint, specifically mandated by Government Regulation Number 7 of 2021 year. They have ambition, but they simply don't have the runway to build massive infrastructure. This constraint led us to what we call the governance paradox. On one side, we have industry standards like the Center of Enablement or C4E model. These enterprise frameworks are incredibly rigorous, but they require dedicated compliance teams, specialized architects, and heavy manual oversight. On the other side, we have the operational reality of MSMEs because they can't afford these dedicated teams. They are forced into a no governance posture. And what happens when you adopt a move fast and break things approach with APIs? You accumulate architectural technical debt or ATD. It builds up linearly as your services grow. Eventually, development slows to a crawl and the risk of systematic failure skyrockets. So, how do we bridge this scalability gap? That is the core objective of this study, to design a lightweight API governance model to specifically optimize for limited resources for the MSMEs. The novelty of our research lies in challenging a very traditional assumption in information system. The old way of thinking says high maturity governance requires high maturity organizational structures. We argue no, it doesn't. Through a concept we call function-based automations, we are replacing human-centric bureaucracy with the deterministic algorithm right inside the CI/CD pipeline. To build this, we couldn't just write a piece of code. This is fundamentally a socio-technical problem. Therefore, we adopt the Echelon Design Science Research, or EDSR methodology. As you can see on the diagram, we broke this down into four big echelons. The first echelon, we defined the constraint through qualitative interview with industry practitioners. The second echelon, we established our meta requirements. The third echelon, we designed the dual layer artifact. And the fourth, we evaluated its theoretical impact against the DORA matrix. Let's unpack what we actually found in the field, and my colleague will explain it.
Hey everyone, I'm Gideon. So in Echelon 1, we conduct a purposive sampling, interviewing CTOs and and senior developer from digital native software houses. We discovered three harsh operational realities. First, market failure. Their client, usually other MSMEs, don't demand security standard or documentation. They just want feature that will work. So there's zero external pressure to govern. Second, the tribal knowledge trap. When a developer resigns, there's no standardized handover. The CTO just steps in and does heroic manual recovery. It works for a team of 5, but it's a disaster for a team of 50. Third, the failure of manual awareness. Even when teams use tools like Tong gateways, keeping documentation updated relies purely on human discipline. And let's be real, under deadline pressure, human discipline is the first thing to break, leading to an inevitable documentation drift. To solve this, our artifact introduced a dual layer strategy. Let's look at the organization layer. First, we took the heavy multi-layer enterprise C4E model and completely collapsed it into a role merging strategy tailored for flat hierarchies. We distilled it into two personas. First, the strategist. Focus entirely on business value and treating API as a product. Second, the guardian. Focus on risk and standard. But here's the catch. The guardian is not a manual gatekeeper anymore. The guardian is a policy engineer, which brings us to the technical layer. How does the guardian enforce rules without creating a human bottleneck? By shifting a governance left, we implemented a policy as a code directly into the CI/CD pipeline. I want to emphasize that this is fundamentally different from a traditional API gateway, with as a reactive running time control. Our model is proactive. We use automated linting via Spectral for design governance and open policy for security governance. If the code doesn't meet the contract, it doesn't even build. Let's look under the hood to see how this deterministic logic actually works in practice. On the left side, we have snippet 1, a spectral rule configuration. This YAML script automatically enforces a kebab case naming convention for all API paths. If a junior developer tries to post an endpoint using camel case, the pipeline fails instantly. No manual code review needed, no argument. Documentation become a compiled, enforced artifact. On the right side, snippet 2, we have an OPA Rego policy. This is our automated security net. This specific policy strictly forbids the deployment of any public load balancer unless the environment is explicitly tagged as an production. It blocks high-risk infrastructure configuration or security spell before they ever reach the cluster. So, what's the impact of this framework? We evaluated this through expert feedback and theoretical mapping against the DORA performance metric. Practitioners love the visibility. They don't hate governance, but they just hate administrative friction. By making it automated and standardized, we align with their need for digital agility. When mapped to DORA metrics, the improvement is massive. Lead time to changes drop from days of manual review bursts down to the minutes it takes to execute the CI/CD script. Furthermore, by deterministically enforcing contracts, we drastically reduce the change failure rate caused by miscommunication between microservices. To conclude, this study successfully addressed the governance paradox in MSMEs. We proved that we can decouple governance rigor from organizational headcount. We successfully met all our meta requirements. We achieved cost efficiency, that's MR1, by utilizing open source ecosystem. We achieve role reconsolidation, this MR2, through the strategy/guardian personas. And we ensure asynchronous performance, this MR3, through CI/CD automated gates. Ultimately, this research validates that high maturity governance does not necessitate high maturity organizational structure. We can achieve enterprise grade reliability using function based automation. Of course, this is an initial framework proposal, and we acknowledge its constraint. Our next step is to execute a 6 to 12-month longitudinal pilot study to capture empirical DevOps metrics, like exactly time reduction in real-world SMEs environments. We also look forward to exploring generative AI or Get AI integration to automatically write this Rego and Spectra policy from natural language, lowering the barrier even further. For transparency and reproducibility, the complete rule set, OPA policy, and CICD templates I discussed today are fully open source. You can scan the QR code to visit our GitHub repository link on screen. So, thank you so much for your time and attention. I look forward to your question and discussion in the comments below. Have a great day all.